This is Teachtown Basics Primary, and we are reviewing the functions and features. We're going to talk now about generalization lessons and how to take data on those lessons in the classroom setting. Remember, on our home page, we have an at-a-glance here of generalization lessons. By clicking on this blue link, we can see what lessons are being recommended for our student. These are going to be any lesson the student has worked on in Teachtown, and whether it's been a mastered lesson, a lesson that is currently in progress, or a lesson that was passed at a pretest level. So these will show up as recommended, and as I scroll down, you will see that some of those lessons I have not started yet to take data on. This is our data collection tool. If I wanted to just begin taking data on something from scratch, you'll see those are here. They're indicated with a little black color here on the bar, and it says not started. The lessons above that have some color, green and this orange yellow color, these are lessons I've already started taking data on. They are currently in progress. And if I were just going to resume a session with a student, I would come and look at just what's in progress for that student. Here I can also see any mastered lessons and any lessons that I have saved for later. I'm going to go back to the recommended lessons. I'm going to show you how to start taking data on a particular skill for a student. Remember, in our reports, you will find recommendations as well that will tell you in the individual progress report. Under mastered lessons, it'll tell you which specific generalization lessons to work on, or for past pretest lessons, which lessons to work on specifically. So if you need more information, you can always go into the reporting center, look at the students' reports, and go into individual progress reports, and that will give you more information if you're wanting to focus more on just lessons that have been mastered, or maybe lessons the student is struggling with. That's going to give you more detail in that area. I'm going to just walk you through how the data is collected for a generalization lesson. So this is roll the ball. We're going to click begin, and this first page just gives you a summary of how the assessment is set up, and I'll start by showing you that as well. I'm going to go into view details. Now, you're not going to be taking data on this page. This page just allows you to understand what the goals and objectives are for this specific generalization lesson plan. You can view the lesson plan here as well. In the right column here, you'll see it says view lesson. So let's start by looking at the lesson plan actually. We'll go here. And the generalization lesson plans are set up with the time in the top left and right corner. Each lesson will give you that. This one here takes about 5 minutes to set up and about 15 minutes to implement the lesson. That's going to vary. Most of them are anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. It will tell you that it's part of the social emotional domain. You will see which lesson it is associated with in the computer. This one is Basics Toys 1 to 6. You'll have a learning objective that will tie back to the goal that you're going to see in the data tool. And it's going to tell you any related skills that are required or will be worked on actually in this particular lesson. Here you will see a list of materials that you'll need to gather and what will need to be done to prepare for this lesson. And step-by-step instructions on implementing the lesson plan. How to make it fun, how to make it meaningful, how to make it easy, or how to make it hard. So you can differentiate your instruction. If you have students grouped in a small group at different levels, you might have students that are working higher than a level 1 in the same group as a student who is currently working on this particular goal, roll the ball. You can use this lesson plan with your group and differentiate so that you can make it a little bit harder for those students working at a higher level, and they can also participate in the same group activity. They may also be able to serve as a peer model for your students during that time. In the bottom right corner here, you'll see the related activities. And these are fun ways to practice the skill in a natural context. So we want to make sure we're continuing that practice and that they're able to do these target concepts across a variety of situations, activities, and people. Down here at the bottom, it will tell you if it's appropriate for school, for home, for group, and there's also will be an icon for individual if it's an appropriate skill to work on individually with the student. You can save them and download them. You can print them so they can be emailed if you are using an email system. All right, I'm going to close that out and go back into our assessment tool. So your generalization lesson plan is what you're working on for the instruction, and you'll want to work those into your center rotations so that the student is working on mastering that in a small group, one-to-one, or whole group out into the classroom environment. This data tool will then help you collect data on those skills across those different settings. So looking at view details, we can see the pre-test is what happens first, and the criteria here is going to be 3 correct responses in a row or 4 out of 5. And the overall objective is, does the student follow a 2-step direction involving a toy? Go find a ball and sit down. Given a field of 4 toys. So you would target this until the student meets the criteria. If they're not able to meet the criteria, then you are going to work on progress monitoring. And in the progress monitoring phase, the overall objective will be broken down into 3 short-term objectives. Does the student follow a 1-step direction for a toy in a field of 2, and then a field of 4 with the 1-step direction up to a 2-step direction with a field of 2 toys. So you're working towards your overall objective. The criteria here is going to be 1 correct response at each short-term objective. And then once that is completed, you will move into the post-test, and your data now will be collected again on the overall objective. Again, 3 correct responses or 4 out of 5 correct to move forward and consider this goal mastered. After that, you will have opportunity to work on an expressive response for the student. And this is important because the on-computer lesson is targeting receptive skills only. So it's important that when you're working on your generalization lesson that you are progressing through and working up to an expressive response for those students who can demonstrate a verbal response, so that we see mastery across both receptive and expressive skills. So we viewed details. We looked at the generalization lesson plan. There are some reports that will be generated in the reporting center, and we will take a look at those in a moment. Your overall objective is listed. These are great for you to use when looking at writing IEP goals. Here you're going to have the goal is written out in a very measurable way, including the criteria for 4 toys on 80% of the trials for 3 consecutive opportunities or 4 out of 5 opportunities observed across a span of no more than 2 data collection weeks. And so that is a very measurable goal that can be used, and you can even copy and paste these and edit those to meet the student's individual needs. All right, moving down, you can also collect what's called ABC data, antecedent, behavior, and consequence data on this specific or during this specific academic target. And you will see by default we're looking for the student to follow a 2-step direction for this goal, and so that's going to be there. You can edit this. So if you feel the student was not able to do that, you could type in whatever the specific behavior is that did occur. So you have access to edit that, and it will record a history. I'm going to put 2-step direction back in there. And we might say, get the ball and sit down was the directive. The student was able to follow the two-step directive, and the teacher gave verbal praise. Verbal praise. So you can record the what happened immediately before, the behavior itself, and then the consequence that occurred following. And when you are in the student's assessment, you would hit enter, and you're going to see then a history of your recording, so your notes will be there for you to go back and look at for patterns in the future. Okay, I'm going to go back using my back button to get us back to our initial assessment in progress. So once you've selected roll the ball, begin your assessment, this is the page you will come to. It's easy to begin the assessment. You're just going to proceed with assessment. Here you will see that overall objective is listed. You're going to be running your small group instruction or whole group instruction, or maybe one-to-one setting, implementing your instruction using the lesson plan. And during that time, you would record the data on the student. The student was in a small group, and you're going to record whether the student was able to do this independently or if they needed a prompt. So the prompt level here is, was it a verbal prompt that was given, a gesture, a model, or error correction? And did the student, once the prompt was given, was the student able to give the correct response? That would be a yes, or they were not able to give the correct response with that prompt. Okay, so I would make a selection, and it will record that data. You're going to continue to do this, and it'll work through the pretest. I'm going to record my second trial here and hit confirm. And because I was not able to get 3 in a row and was not able to get the 4 out of 5, it is now going to put me into progress monitoring, where we're breaking down those short-term objectives. And so you'll see here we're in our first short-term objective. The color changes to orangey yellow, and the overall objective then is now made into a short-term objective following one-step direction, and that's with 2 toys out. Again, your data would be recorded whether it's small group or whole group, and was the student able to have success with that response. My student needed a prompt. You're going to continue to take this data until you get 1 correct response. You can see now I moved into my second short-term objective. This bar will continue to grow and fill in with color as you progress through the assessment. The overall objective was broken down into a short-term objective 2, which is one-step direction with 4 toys present. I'm going to record small group is my setting, and the student was able to do it with a gesture model. And my second trial, the student was able to do this, and we are now moving into our third short-term objective, and I'm going to continue to work on that data collection piece. Small group, student gets it correct. So now you will see the bar turns green, and we're back into our post-test. So we're looking at our overall objective, and does the student follow a 2-step direction involving a toy in a field of 4 toys? So this criteria goes back to 3 in a row, correct, or 4 out of 5. So you would continue to work on those until we get that criteria met. Okay, if they fail the post-test, it actually will put you back into that progress monitoring phase. So you'll continue to work through that until you can get back to your post-test, and you can get the criteria at 3 in a row or 4 out of 5. So I'm going to go ahead and have this student progress through the post-test. And you will see now my student has mastered this lesson, and now we're moving into expressive response questions. The student, does the student follow a two-step direction involving a toy, go find a ball, and sit down, given a field of 4 toys, and state what they did? I got the ball and sat down. So now that is the goal that you're looking for. And you will target that until we reach our mastery criteria, 3 in a row or 4 out of 5. And you will continue to work on that in your small groups, whole groups, or one-to-one. Now, you can also view any history here under your pre-test. You can see what questions were asked and the response that was given, your post-test, or I'm sorry, progress monitoring, and your post-test. So you can see those responses here if you ever needed to go back, and you can edit if you needed to change the time or add a note to that particular data point, and then you would save that. And then again, history responses for your expressive response. All right, and I'm going to go back to our home page, and I'm going to click on just what's in progress for my student, and I want to scroll down now. Actually, let's look at mastered. So that's the one we were just working on, roll the ball. So now I can see that's going to show up under my mastered lessons. Okay. And if we go back to our home screen here, generalization, what's recommended, you can then move on to another generalization lesson for that student, or you can pick up with some lessons that are already currently in progress. I would recommend probably starting with 1 or 2 and targeting those to mastery before jumping in and adding, 3 and 4. It depends on your center rotations, timing, being able to, staffing to be able to implement these. So I wouldn't overwhelm yourself trying to do 10 at a time. Pick 1 or 2 at a time, work through mastery, and then add in additional ones as the student maybe masters those lessons, or if you see that a student might be struggling with some lessons on the computer. All right, we're going to move into viewing all generalization lessons. And you can do that from your home page under your curriculum tab as well. We're going to look at here generalization lessons. So these are all generalization lessons that are recommended for Sally Social. When I click on all and I select an actual lesson, it's going to bring up my entire class roster. And this is helpful for you when you're working in small group on a specific topic, a generalization lesson plan, and you're wanting to jump quickly in and out of students to take data. So I might be running a group with Sally and Billy and Ben, and I'm working on Bear Poster. I can resume Sally's data and then make her record her data response, and then save that one for later. Use my back button, and now I can go into Ben and begin his session. It will say, this will change the currently selected student, because at the top I've had Sally Social pulled up. Am I sure that I want to do that? And I would hit confirm. Save that one for later. And so now it's going to take me into Bear Poster, and it's for Ben. Okay, so then I could proceed with his assessment and begin his pretest. Okay, so this allows you to quickly, again, jump in and out of students. I'm going to use my back button. Now my student that I've selected is Ben, and I could move then into Billy Teachtown. Yes, confirm. And now it's going to let me go to Billy Teachtown, and I could start his assessment. So you can move quickly and easily through each student, and use your back button, takes you back to that screen. Okay. We're going to, and you can also see, I'm sorry, let's stay here for a second. We can also see what is currently in progress for those, which students are we currently taking data on, and which have been mastered and saved for later. Okay, we are going to go back to our home page. So we are talking about generalization lessons, those that are currently recommended for this student, and now I'm on Billy Teachtone, so it has his lessons pulled up. What's in progress, lessons that have been mastered, and then any I've saved for later. To view all generalization lessons, I can click here on this green tab, or I can also go under the curriculum tab and go down to view generalization lessons. And then if you want to go back to your home page, you're now ready to choose on computer lessons. You would be ready to set up your next student session or move to another student to do some customizing. We're always going to go back to that home page to set up the next student.